So how I'm still now even more blown away. How did you like essentially learn to speak three different languages? I won't say four different languages because like a 6 month old doesn't really require that
Yeah.
much, like in
You
terms of
just make
interaction.
facial expressions at her and she's all excited.
They love, yeah, that's like my son's 6 weeks, so he's just now starting to smile for things other than farts. Like
Yeah.
he smiles when he sees us, which is pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Just
But
wait till they start like interacting and saying things. That's when it's
that's
real.
when it starts going crazy. Yeah, I can imagine. And so now it's just it's blowing my mind that you're over the past like 5 years, 6 years, you've basically learned how to speak like four different emotional languages,
Yeah.
raised a few humans, and also been able to like stay at the top of your game. And by the way, keep your relationship positive enough to continue having kids. Like
Yeah.
at some point that also has to be addressed. So like,
Yeah.
I now that we've talked a lot about the kids, like obviously we have to talk about your wife, the mother of your children.
Yeah.
Your relationship with her is clearly going okay enough for you to have
Yeah.
had a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
How did you manage that aspect of it? It must have been incredibly difficult to like carve out space for you and your relationship with your wife when you have, four kids under five.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we definitely put them first, for the most part because they're our kids, and we definitely sometimes are like, oh yeah, it's time for us to like have a date or something. Where we went out kayaking the other day, and that was probably the first time we've been out together, just us, in probably a year.
Wow.
um, and then before that, like it was 2 or 3, like, and that's just something we're kind of like not saying we're okay with it and we need to make sure we do that, but we also are like, we are parents, we don't like to pawn them off on our parents, even though like my parents are local, her parents are local, but it's not something we like to do. And it's not like a thing of like, oh, we're trying to just control everything and manage it all ourselves. It's just I actually enjoy spending time with my kids. um so like when I get off of work, I go pick them up. Like I don't leave them at daycare all day, and like I like to spend time with them. And so I think for us, there are times where we realize we need to like go out to eat or just like have a few hours to ourselves, and that's like peace and quiet. Like it is, but it's being able to communicate that and have that understanding. And it definitely is harder as the more kids you bring into it, because then saying, hey, grandma and grandpa, you want to watch 4 kids, is harder than like, hey, you want to watch 1 kid. um, but it's just being able to have that understanding and communication between each other, that no matter kind of like how crazy things are and wild it is with like kids, like at night usually is like our kind of like, we usually have like 2 or 3 hours before like we go to bed that they're kind of asleep, that we'll just watch a show, talk, whatever it is, usually clean up the mess that they made. But other than that, it's just kind of like having that understanding of it's okay and we'll have the time here later, but we want to spend that time with them. And so taking them to go do things or going out, spending quality time kind of as a family, I still count as like us doing things together. Like if we go to the zoo, if we go to the aquarium, if we go somewhere, like it's still taking them with us, but that's what we asked for. Like
Yeah.
we asked to have this, like we are glad we have these kids, we're glad we get to do these things. And there's definitely moments it's stressful and crazy, but at the end of the day, like I still love her for everything that she does and being my partner in crime, and she'd probably say the same. So it's just kind of a definitely a wild ride, but it's fun.
Is there is there a fear, I want to talk about big trips, like trips to the zoo, trips to the aquarium, because to me that sounds like a huge trip, but I'm sure to you that's like a Thursday. But
Yeah,
is
usually actually that's my rest day, so yeah, usually.
is there before we get there, is there a fear and a strategy, or a strategy around losing yourself, like your autonomy, your wife's autonomy, your relationships, like core, to the fact that you guys are by choice actively being, the parents to four kids? Like is there a fear that could just completely like wear away the edges? And then if there is there like a strategy to help deal with that?
um I wouldn't say there's a fear. I mean, I think you kind of, if you know yourself enough, you're going to know when you're kind of becoming distant and not as present kind of in the moments. And I think when you have 4 kids, you just have to balance that way more, right? Like you have to make sure you spend time sitting down, talking, having discussions, figuring out whatever it is that you're wanting to figure out or talk about, that you have to force those times to happen. And I think over time, like you just kind of understand that there's going to be times that it's challenging and hard, and be okay with that. But at the end, know that no matter what kind of happens, we're both going to stick by each other's side and help each other out and always be there for each other. So, I mean, I asked her to marry me. I'm going to be there for her thick and thin, like regardless of what kind of is thrown at us. And then we had 4 children, and that is our decision. So we will do everything we can to provide like the best life for our kids. And then on top of that, like I'm still trying to be a professional athlete, and it's definitely a lot to juggle at times, but being here at the gym, it's like, okay, that's my time to be an athlete. Then when I'm at home, it's my time to be at home and present at home. One thing I work with like my mental coach on is like almost like taking the hats on and off. Like, all right, when it's time to train, you put your training shoes on and it's go time. All right, then when you're done, take those shoes off. Now it's the business owner time. And then it's like, now my time is solely focused on that. Then when it's my time to be at home, all right, now I'm just being fully present at home. Let's go outside. Let's go play. Okay, when it's kids are off to bed, all right, now it's my time to be like the husband. Okay, how was your day? What can we do? Like, what do you want to do coming up? Like, and I think just for me, that was an easy way to understand and grasp how to kind of balance a lot of the things that go on. It's just like, when my time is in here, that's what it's for. When my time is at home, it's focused on my family. When we're out traveling, it's like, all right, let's put the phone down and try to be more present in these experiences and do it together as a family. So yeah, I guess that kind of
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. I think that the balancing act of being super present when it is time to do the thing that you're doing at that moment, and being able to switch that on and off for the various like contexts that it's important to do that for, sounds like a superhero skill. Like it sounds like a superpower, being able to be like, all right, I'm 100% focused on training. I've got 90 minutes. I've got X, Y, and Z to get done. And then once that's done, I've got, like I have to take care of my books and my payroll. And then once that's done, I have to go pick up my kids and like be a dad. And, a bad training session and, a rough, rough financials can't affect my ability to like be a dad or whatever. Right. Or it's like the other side of it where having a great training session and everything's going great. And like, that's the only time I'm a good dad or a good husband or a good father. It must be, that's one of those things that I imagine gets like easier with practice, but also requires you to be aware of it and practicing it all the time. Right.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and I think part of that too is like, I have someone I talk to about it, right? Like, so I have like a mental performance coach, and a lot of the things aren't always necessarily talking about like fitness related or training. It's like, okay, like what are the things outside of the gym that are like making me feel a certain way, or how like focused I am on different things. And it's like, okay, was that actually optimal to get you to where you want to be? And it's like, yes or no. And it's like, no. Okay. So then like, how can you look at that a different way to put you in a better place, whether it's financially, whether it's spending time at home? Is it like, okay, when I'm at home, I'm on social media. Okay, well then like you need to put your phone down and go turn it off, and then make sure. And then it's like those little things that when you start to become aware of it and how people interact or say different things, even in the gym, right? So if someone's negative about the workout or how hard it's going to be, I mean, that's just a mental thing that they're just kind of portraying out there that then wears off on everybody else. Where if the environment is like lighthearted and fun, the energy's good, then people probably have a better workout. And it's just being able to translate that into literally every area. And it's definitely, it takes practice, and there's still days I mess it up and have to work on things and balance. And I'm not saying I don't ever get angry, and not that I don't ever have bad training days, because it happens quite frequently. But it's how you actually handle those and develop as a human being and personally as myself, that it allows me to grow more as an athlete, more as a father, more as a husband, more as a business owner. And then understanding, like, even as the gym, it's like, okay, I need to outsource more things. Like, I'm spreading myself too thin. Okay, well, here, can you guys take this? And then they're like, yes. And so then it's just being able to be aware of all those areas. But if you don't talk about it or express it and you just keep everything in, then that's a hard thing to start to understand. Cause I mean, I keep everything usually in. And so then when I started expressing things and talking about it, I was like, oh, well, this is easier if you just ask someone else for help, or you do this, or you can focus more on here. Cause then the time of that you're doing it, you're getting more out of it. And then you're giving yourself 110% on it. And then at the end of the day, then you're like, oh, well, that was way better. And then you just start finding different ways to level up from that in literally every area. And that's kind of what I try to do in each area.
It sounds like, what's that? What was that?
I said, it just means like you got to be able to balance that and try that and be okay that it's not always going to work right. And it's not always going to go according to plan, but then you realize and mark that down of like, that didn't work. Okay, now let's try something else and see how that goes.
It sounds like there's like this active strategy of making everything able to improve everything else. Like your approach in how you are a husband, how you are a father, how you're a business owner, how your training goes, how you're, coaching, etc. All these different things, like you're almost using, because of how tight you're, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, I'm just trying to like read between the lines here, because of how tight your time is and how tight your schedule has to be and how your priorities have to be adjusted around your kids and around all these different things that you're juggling. It seems as if, the idea of like self-help hobbies or like those go out the window. Like you're not going to be able to spend, 20 hours a week reading a book or listening to an audiobook that like, gives you these strategies. You almost have to like find ways of using the like interactions that you have in all the other areas in your life to improve all the other areas in your life. So like the lessons you learn as like a father comes into like how you deal with, your business, and the lessons you learn in your business comes into like how you deal with like your workouts, and your workouts, how you deal with your wife, and how you interact with your parents. And so like there's almost like this layering, like this interconnected layering of like everything becomes like a focusing lens around everything else.
Yeah. Like I have like a goals board, and one of the things is like find a way to be 1% better at everything you do. So like in each and every area that I do. And so that I look at like the caps I put on is more like how I interact with like my mental coach is like, all right, as a dad, how can I be 1% better today? Like, what can I do at home to be more present, to be more in tune with my kids and like teach them something different? And then it's like, okay, as an athlete, what can I do today that's going to be slightly better? And just, it doesn't have to be these drastic changes that like are huge. Like it can just be something very small. Like, oh, okay, I made sure I logged my results today. I wrote down everything that I ate. Here was the food I had. And then like those little things start to add up over time. And then you do that over a month. And then it's like, oh, wow, I've gotten so much better with like time management, how much fueling I need. And then all those things that you thought were hard and difficult are now like easy and just kind of like routine. Like taking cold showers in the morning, or then journaling at night, like just finding what works for you and what you want to gain from. And I think that has come from children, that's come from being an athlete, that's come from being a gym owner, like just chipping away at all those little areas and finding the way that I can be the best kind of like dad, father, athlete that I can be.